inspired to push through. Because there's a spark in you. Breakthrough or bust. Hello, hello. Welcome back to Breakthrough or Bust. I am so excited to be here with you. I am Kaluwa, and this is Nola. This is something that I don't think ever thought would happen, but I was able to finagle Nola to come join me today to talk about. I wanted to come back and talk about like a part 2 of the reset that we both just recently did. So I talked about my why and why I got into it last time. And, I talked about I was having some eczema happening around my eyes due to allergies. And, it was just like, I don't know, I was retaining water. It was all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? That's it. I'm just going to reset. I feel like a lot of times we tend to add on. There's an issue. Let's add on. Oh, let's get another supplement. Oh, let's try this. Let's try. And sometimes what we need to do is release. Just let everything go and start again. Right. So one of my favorite quotes is, when you're in a tug of war, let go of the rope. Right. So that's kind of what I did with my own body. But what I want to do is, I want to get into a little bit more of, so when I came last time, I had just finished the very strict just juicing and pureed soups kind of weekend. Okay, no food, right? And so then all last week after that, we started to slowly add in, but keeping it all very clean, very like just add in some meats and, no sugars. We're still like no sugars. And we're really not a refined sugar family to begin with. But that being said, dried fruit, I mean, come on, chocolate. Like, I'm just going to say, even though it's like the 70% cacao, organic, yada, 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 it still becomes an imbalance after a while. And that was where we were feeling. So I want to touch on just some of the things that showed up for me all last week now, having come back out of it. So, but first I want to go back into Nola's side of the story, which she's so thrilled with. She's like, this is part of her reset. So for her, Nola is my introvert. She's my beautiful daughter that I love so much. And I'm so grateful for her for being here and just for being my bud all the time. But for her, this is much more painful than the reset. So be kind. But so Nola, okay, I just kind of like all of a sudden had a like, we're walking out the door, I think, and I'm like, I have just been getting a sense to do like a reset, like to do a cleanse or something. And you were like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Now, please know that Nola and I are foodies. Like, one of our favorite our favorite pastime, I think, is eating, making the food to eat. Okay. We love to eat. So when I came out with this like harebrained idea and Nola agreed, I was like, eyes wide. Really? You agreed? So please tell me, what made you agree?
Well, okay, so part of it is the fact that we are in allergy season again. And I feel like I felt like it would be really good to just kind of go back to basics and not have any third party interventions in the whole allergy season.
Mm-hmm.
And it just also felt like something that needed to be reset. It just felt like it needed to be done. And that was pretty much the reason.
So it was feeling in alignment for you too. Yeah. And so Enola really gets allergies pretty rough. But you kind of get them more traditionally, Whereas I tend to like puff up and get eczema around my eyes. Nola will get the sniffles, the sneezes, the headaches, all of that fun stuff, right? So, I mean, there's no one better than the other. It's just, different ways that they get us. And, you know, for me, it's, resetting that gut is a great way to get yourself back into, your body is programmed, right? Its natural state is to return you to homeostasis. So if that's not happening, we got to get out of its way. It's kind of what I felt like. Yes, and I see these comments coming in, and I'm going to get to those in just a few minutes. But so that was our motivation. Okay, what were your key takeaways for the weekend part? So that was when we were just on the juice and the soup.
Well, my key takeaway was I probably snack while I'm bored, definitely. And also, I'm not mindful when I am eating a meal. And so, just paying attention to the food that you have right in front of you. And it is so much better when you pay attention to it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Because that was what I talked about last week in mine, was that, at this point, it's like when you get this soup in front of you, like that's all you've eaten. And it's like each bite is like, oh, like it's the best thing you've ever had. Right. But it really is. It's just the flavors. Like I felt like flavors really came out more. And, I still did seasonings and stuff because I'm a big believer in herbs and spices and things like that. So I still used that in there. Yeah. So what was maybe your least favorite part?
I think it goes back to that. It's like, oh, I can't eat right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause we kind of had it, set up like we juiced a couple times a day, we souped a couple times a day. And then that was it. And like lots of tea, lots of water, lots of, right.
My least favorite part was the lack of crunchy foods.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like just having non-solid.
Yeah, nothing to chew on. Yeah, absolutely. And what was funny for me is even going into like before I had even uttered the idea, I had said, you know what, I'm snacking too much, like getting tortilla chips and things like that. Like, so, and this is more of the realization I had this week was just this habit of pushing off my meals, like, oh, I'll get to it later, I'll get to it later, and prioritizing other things. Oh, I'm busy with this, I'm busy with that. And then, oh, I'm starving. Let me get some chips and just munch on those real quick until I can get a dinner made or something made. And then I was eating more the end of the day than I was in the beginning of the day, which of course we know is probably not the best for your digestion. So it had just become this really bad habit for me. And then what happened was I was working really hard to get back into good habits as far as my eating times. And it was like I was fighting. It was not easy. It was like fighting all the time. So now coming out of the weekend, well, actually, the Monday, we actually decided to do one more day. We originally agreed on the 2 days and then woke up Monday and I was like, you know what? I feel the need to go one more day. You don't have to. And you said, no, I'm going to do it too. I said, okay. So then Tuesday, we started to add back in very gently. It was still very soupy and right. It wasn't a ton of eating, but that particular day, I think that was the first day. Wasn't that the one we ate like every 2 hours?
Yes.
Yeah. We ate every 2 hours and like, it was like still like grumble, grumble. So we were eating like every 2 hours. And then the next day added a little bit more solid. And that's when homeostasis started to fall into place. So for me, and I'm very specific when I say for me, because I'm a big believer that every body is different. Mind's body, soul, right? What works for one may most likely has to be tweaked for the other, right? So for me, I do really well with 4 smaller meals a day or like 3 meals and a generous snack. Okay. So that tends to be what my homeostasis is. But then, I was getting to this point, it was like 2 big meals at the end of the day kind of thing, or, and just a teeny little snack at the beginning of the day. So that was not doing well for me. We had that day, we ate like every 2 hours, and it was like we were burning it. It was like we were still hungry. And then the next day, it started to fall into place. It was like the 10, the 1, the 4, the 7, right? Like where we would hit those meals, and it was like we were hungry at those times. And so now I'm like really protecting those times, especially going into the week, is when work hits, and like the real world hits, and you got to keep up with everything. And so I needed to protect that with all of the real worlds coming in. What about you?
So, yes, kind of that same thing too. I needed to do that because I tend to overeat at meals because then I forget to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I do remember to eat, I'm starving, and then I overeat again.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
I kind of fall into that too.
Yeah, it becomes like a pattern, which is what makes it a challenge to get back on track when you're in that whole habit. So again, for me, cat is going crazy. So for me, that was really great as far as the body clock reset. And then another thing that I noticed was, so again, part of it too was the no TV. Well, you did social media, I did not. So that being off the TV, being off the screens, that did a body clock reset for me as well, like for my sleep times and getting to sleep at a better time. And that was really nice for me. What about you?
Uh, yes, I did, like you said, I did the social media, but definitely I still felt it with the no TV. And I feel like we did a board game the one night, and that was just really fun.
We did a
And
lot of board games,
we
like
did,
family games, and
yeah.
yeah.
And I just like did more of my hobbies and stuff instead of filling my time with TV.
Yeah, that sewing machine was kicking. You heard a lot of the sewing machine out of her room, that's for sure. Yeah, it was really nice. And then I mentioned this in mine last week too. Even TV was not mindful. I realized that I had this habit of I'm exhausted, I'm going to sit down and put it on because it's too early to go to bed. There's still too much to do. There's right. And so instead I just like veg. And yeah, I do enjoy watching some comedy shows, but mindfully is much better. Like instead of just having it on as noise while I'm doing other things or what have you. So it's gotten me back into a habit of when I do something, I'm just doing that, which, like that's the dream, right? That's what we all want to get back to. So, I get that I may fall back into bad habits, right? It happens, but at least I know how I can reset it again. I talked a lot about last time really wanting to do it, right? And then even last week, I had a whole post come out about you need to. People always telling you need to do this and you need to do that. Don't tell me what I need to do. I know what I need to do. And for me, this was just very much an internal nudge that came to me. I am not a fan of not eating. Okay. Like I said, I'm a big foodie, no less too. So if I wasn't like 100% on board, it wouldn't have happened. It would not have worked. And how do you feel about
Oh
that?
yeah,
Because
same
you're,
here, because I would have probably been like trying to take snacks and stuff if I wasn't
yeah.
on board.
And I don't feel like we were suffering.
No.
Right? We weren't like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. Like we had things going on. We went to a tea party. We went kayaking. Like we were doing fun stuff. So, of course, that probably distracts and takes away from. But I tell you, by the end of the kayak trip, we are like, grumble, grumble. Let's get home. I'm hungry. Time for some soup. So, yeah. But again, I feel like, well, if it was something like I was forcing myself to do because I should, right? And I put those quotes up, I should, right? Shoulding all over ourselves. then it would have been miserable. We probably wouldn't have even done the things that were fun. Even the board games, like, oh, who cares? Forget it. I'm miserable. Like we would have been like petulant children. So I think that's really important. Then another thing that I really noticed was a lot more energy. Like I was dancing around a lot last week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and still am. Like I'm like just randomly put on like a song will come into my head and I'll just put it on and I'm in there dancing while I'm cooking and like I like get a song in my head in the shower and I start dancing around and like everything has become a dance, right? So definitely a lot more energy. And as a matter of fact, we were laughing because I had just finished mowing the lawn. Like I cleaned the house all day, then went out and mowed. And then I was done mowing. And to celebrate, I was about to do a little goofy dance. And I was like just about to start it. And I saw my two neighbors come out and I was like, oh, I don't know if they're ready for that. So we were laughing about that. I was like, well, I was about to do my goofy dance. But yeah, for sure, I had more energy. I think more focus. Yeah. What about you? Any other?
I think my focus was probably definitely. I didn't notice exponential change in energy, but I think my focus was better.
Okay. Yeah. And then, so again, it's like mind, body, soul. I noticed that there was a lot more of the spiritual coming in, a lot more messages. So my sleep was a little jacked here and there because I'm getting a lot of these messages coming in. I'm getting a lot of signs and things and awarenesses, like even that the reason that the discomfort was around my eyes was a refusal to see something, and that began a whole process of digging into that even and healing that. And so there was like this next level spiritually that also came about. And it makes sense. I always say that we are spiritual beings in human bodies, right? So it's not like they're one separate of the other. Like the way that we connect to our spirituality, to our spiritual selves is through the physical, through the emotional, through, right? We need to process all the human stuff in order to connect with the spiritual stuff. It's important. It's really challenging to be in a spiritual place when you're fighting for your health, right? Because your focus has to be there. So taking care of that stuff helps you get to where you want spiritually, I believe. So that was something that showed up for me. I don't know, did you have anything come up?
I've been having a lot more dreams, and
Yeah.
so that might be that coming through. But that's
And on top of it, this is October. When we're talking about this, and the veil is thin in October, so that will happen naturally. There'll be more messages, but I think that just resetting and getting so clear on in ourselves made them like that much more. All right, I am going to go back and just there's a few. Dot is commenting here that Nola is the bracelet artist. And yes, she is. In fact, she has gorgeous bracelets. Catwalkgems.com. Check them out because she has a whole goddess series of bracelets where she uses the gemstones, the powers of the gemstones to balance, your goddess archetype. So, she has gemstones that support your weaknesses and amplify your strengths. And she even has a quiz on her website where you can go in and find out who your goddess is. So it is really fun. And she also has, which I cannot say enough about, is an empath protection bracelet. So it has stones that are fantastic for protecting your energy when you're clairsentient, which is the empath, the person who walks into a room and feels the energy and tends to absorb all that stuff. You go into the store and you're like, oh, right? There are ways of protecting yourself if that's you. And this bracelet is one of them. It's really amazing. Yeah, so resets are important. Learning that with psoriasis. Yeah, and psoriatic arthritis. Forgive me as I say that. Yes, that's another one. And, again, psoriasis is another one that comes through the skin. And I really think that that is how our body communicates with us. Like, I have always been a skin cleanser. Like, everything comes straight through my skin. When I found out, about a family member having a cancer diagnosis, boom, eczema on my skin, right? Eczema on my legs. So, yeah, the skin is a big communicator for many of us. And so, yeah, reset is really important. And thank you for that compliment that we're sweet enough. And so, yes, sugars are destructive, inflammatory. And again, like I said, I am all about having pleasure in your life and having that joy, but it's got to be within the balance. And when you notice it getting off balance, well, then, yeah, for sure, it's time to put it back. That's why October, kind of starts the sweet season. And that's why I've made that, with my tea business, that Sugar Buster is the tea of the month, just to have that there on hand. Even if you've indulged, you can drink the tea after the indulgence so that it'll still kind of keep things level so you don't have that crash and then cravings and right. So yeah, we did quite a bit of Sugar Buster. We did tea talks, a lot of tea talks, Chakra Glow. We did a lot of that. We did some Refresh. I think those were the main ones we hit through this reset. Yeah. That is the key. Feeling like it was good to go back to the basic is what's being said. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And that's it. You've got to just listen to your inner guidance. And I think, that's just my ongoing message is finding that inner guide and trusting it and not getting caught up in this is the way to reduce inflammation. This is how you lose 5 pounds now. And like, it's like, yeah. For you, that worked. But I got to listen to what's right for me. Can you not include the whole foods method of eating veggies like celery and carrots? Not sure what that's asking there. But yeah, if you're still here and want to elaborate on that a little bit. But yes, we definitely had a lot of carrots and celery. So yeah. What do you think? Any final thoughts?
I think we've covered it all.
Have we covered it all? Yeah. Oh, you know what I wanted to say too is we prioritized bone broth as a way for nurturing and resetting the gut. And then lots of veggies in that. I think once we came off just the juice and the soup, like the veggie soup, then we added some meats very gently and then working our way up. And then grains are still very minimal right now for us, but I feel good. Like I don't feel hungry. I don't feel, and there are many times when if I didn't have something in there grain wise, I would feel hungry. So that's been good. Yeah, I think that is a lot of it. I think that is pretty much where we end up. Oh, how much we ended up side bonus. We did end up shedding some weight, so that's good. I'm not going to talk numbers because I don't want it to, because I don't think it's about a number on a scale. We just did that like for scientific research, really, just to see. I know that I was holding a lot of water weight, so bless you. So that was what that helped, reset. Yeah, I think let's do, why are you most grateful that you did this?
To gain that sense of, the word is on the tip of my tongue, mindfulness again, so that you're paying attention to everything instead of just kind of going on autopilot.
Yeah. And for me, I'm most grateful for doing this because it's funny. I feel like it was a lesson for everything else that I do. when I let go and, just threw everything out, right? Like let go of all of the stuff, went back to basics, everything that I was struggling to do fell into place. And it was easy. And it's like, well, all this time I refused to do a reset, to do a cleanse, to do any of that stuff because I felt like it would be hard. And so I absolutely refused and I wasn't willing to do it. But then I got the nudge and I said, you know what? Fine, let's give it a shot. And then it ended up being the easiest way for me. And so I think that it was truly a lesson in so many ways of just not, and I talk about this all the time, like not putting those blinders on and getting caught up like that something has to be a certain way in order to work. um Once again, always the student. So what would you say to what would you say to somebody else who was considering doing a mind body soul reset?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, do you have any recommendations or anything you would have liked to have known?
It's not as hard as you think, and just be committed to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say listen to your guidance every step of the way. Like we did juices and soups, that worked for us. I mean, maybe you're going to do salads or, like whatever it is, whatever is coming to you, I think honor that. It doesn't have to be. And I think that's why I was so resistant, because it was always like, oh, you got to do the master cleanse. You got to have the lemon juice and cayenne. And, I didn't want that. And when I finally gave myself permission to do it my way, then all of a sudden it was easy. It was not a big deal. So I think, once again, this has been the lesson. My lesson for the year is trusting that I'm not wrong just because the masses say something else, right? So I think that was a big part of it, that I would impart on others. I feel like there's something else, but I'm gonna leave it with that. Okay. So thank you so much for being here and listening to our story. Feeling pretty good these days. So we thought we'd jump on here and share that. And yeah, please, like, subscribe, comment, and share this with somebody who you might think would be interested in learning more about it. And just remembering that, Breakthrough or Bust is sharing stories of transformation, to inspire, to heal the person who's telling the story and to inspire you, the listener, who might be going through a similar story right now. If you'd like to ever share your story, please reach out to me. Would love to do that with you. And I just want you to remember to keep pushing through, because there is a spark in you. Love you. Bye.